Hi, this is PatZi with a Z. Welcome to Joy on Paper Live for an author interview with Valerie Burns. Oh, this is so exciting. And here's Valerie, and we are going to be talking about two of her cozy mystery series. She's one of these overachievers. One wasn't enough. And so she writes as Valerie Burns and VM Burns, and she knows a lot about bookstores and bakeries. So I am so happy to welcome you to the program today. Valerie, hi.
Hello. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, this is so much fun to see you because, we've been talking on the radio for a long time because,
hmm
well, we love your books. And when I say we, I'm including my sister, who is known in our neighborhood as a connoisseur of cozy mysteries. She's crazy about Nana Joe. We'll get to Nana Joe in a little while because that is somebody. It's like she can talk about Nana Joe. I know she's a character in your book. We know that. We know Nana Joe is a character. And then after a while, we'll be talking about Nana Joe, and we'll say, you know, I think she's real. so, so sometimes this happens with authors, great authors like you, who can just bring characters to life. So as I said, while you have this great bookstore series, which of course, as you notice behind me, I have books. Behind you, you have books. So we're simpatico. That's no question about it. We are
We
simpatico.
are. We are.
Now, I don't know. Also, now, of course, we're going to talk first about this series because you have a book coming out, and I wanted to make sure that we had it and talk about the Baker Street Mysteries, which, of course, have food in them. Now, I don't know if you love food as much as I love food, and then that's why you decided to do, do this series. But uh,
Yes.
tell us about it. And the third book in the series is going to be released on July 23rd.
Yes, I do love food. And I wanted to do a culinary cozy mystery. So I was sitting at home thinking about what kind of culinary cozy mystery would I want to write. And it was around the time of COVID. So I was at home and I noticed a really big difference in the cooking shows that I used to enjoy watching. So during COVID, when everybody was at home and they did not have professional photographers coming into the home, the videographers who really knew what they were doing. They had to improvise. And so they've got friends and family who were part of their circle that they could trust in the home and taping. And you noticed a lot of outtakes and you noticed a lot of things that were not perfect. And I was chatting with a writer friend, Kelly Garrett, and she's like, you should see all of these outtakes on the baking shows. They're just hilarious. And I started watching those and I thought it would be great to have a culinary cozy mystery featuring someone who doesn't cook, doesn't bake. And so
Yes.
that was kind of where I got the idea of Maddie Montgomery. She is a fashionista social media influencer who gets dumped during the middle of her live stream wedding. And she's humiliated and she just wants to find some place to go hide until she can, get beyond the publicity surrounding that. And she learns that she has inherited a bakery from her great aunt Octavia in New Bison, Michigan, the fictional town of New Bison. And she thinks, I've never heard of New Bison, so no one should have heard of it, and it would be a great place to hide out. So she goes to New Bison, Michigan, and learns that she can't just sell the bakery and take all the proceeds and go back to her life and, triumphant, that her great aunt Octavia says, in order to inherit, you have to live in New Bison, you have to run the bakery, and you have to keep my 250-pound English Mastiff. named Baby.
I have to interrupt just a minute to tell people. I know now. I'm a Michigander, but even better, I'm a Youper from northern Michigan. So I can imagine a fashionista, and I come from a very little town. I can imagine a fashionista coming to our little town. The
Uh-huh.
shock, the shock, the shock of it.
Yes,
It would be so funny.
exactly.
Well, it is so funny. You write about it. I was laughing so hard at one point with the first book, my jaw was hurting because the
Well,
comment,
good.
just thinking of somebody. Well, we don't do in northern Michigan, Youpers, as we are known.
Yep.
We are not the top fashion model. It's so funny. It is so funny.
It is not the fashion industry of the world. And, I lived in a somewhat bigger town. South Bend, Indiana is where I'm from originally. And it is what I would call maybe a medium-sized town. And so, when I moved to Southwest Michigan, and I was amazed at the differences in living in a small town. So I can only imagine it must feel like an alienation if you come from a city as big and bustling as LA or New York and you go to a town where I just remember one of my first times, going into towns like the one that New Bison is based on, which it's not that hard to figure out if you are familiar with the area that it's based on, New Buffalo, Michigan. And I remember having, because I went to college, my undergrad I did in Chicago area. So you come from, say, the Chicago area, and you go to a town where there are all these fruit, and they have a lot of fruit stands. There's a lot of fruit in Southwest Michigan, if you didn't know that, and there's a lot of fruit stands, and they would leave canisters out, like they wouldn't pack all the stuff up at night. So you're driving down the road, and there's a fruit stand or a vegetable stand, and it's like, with a can, like, leave the money in the can, if we're not here. And I thought in Chicago they would steal the stand, they would steal your money, the stand, and all your fruits and vegetables, and lock and be selling it like right across the street from you, probably. But it's just a very different world when you move to a small town.
It is, and you created so beautifully. It's fantastic, and well, I can say even the New York Times thinks it's pretty fantastic, which is a very nice thing to get from the New York Times when they say books, dogs, and food, and a well-structured sense of fun connect almost all of Valerie Burns' cozy mysteries, but particularly this one. It is that. I mean, that's nice. Isn't that nice to get from the New York Times?
It was amazing. I am still walking on air whenever I see or hear that, because the New York Times is just like the epitome. So the fact that they not only read my cozy mystery, but they liked it, really meant the world.
Well, they did, and everybody who reads this, it is so much fun. It was really, I think, as I said, for me, I was one of those people who picked the fruit for those fruit stands. So it's exactly like that. It was so funny. I mean, I love that small town. The whole thing, the whole storyline is wonderful, and all the surprises you get with a small town. So I think her aunt was a very clever woman. But tell us a little bit about this dog. Now, this dog is different from your sweet little poodles. I mean, this is not
Yes.
a sweet little poodle that you can just cuddle up with.
I when I was young, I wanted a dog. My sister and I both wanted dogs, and my mother had criteria. So the criteria was, it, my mother did not like dog hair. So we had to have a dog that didn't shed. and we needed a dog that was smart, and she wanted a dog that was, that was small. And my sister and I went to the library and did research, and we found that poodles do not shed. They're very smart, which, a long time ago you used to see them in circuses a lot because they were easy to train. And so the first dog we got was a poodle, and we got toy poodles, which are small. So poodles come in three sizes: toy, which is like 10 pounds, and miniatures, which is the next size up. They're, about 15, 17 pounds. And then standards are the big dogs. And so from, my first dog was a toy poodle named Candy, and she was a very smart white toy poodle. And then we got Cookie, and when I was an adult, I got two poodles, Coco and Cash, and I have two poodles now.
Ooh.
Kensington here, the black poodle, that's Kensington. I call her Kinsey, and she is 9, and she weighs about 8 pounds, so she is a toy. And yes, I did name her after my publisher, so Kensington. And then right at the start of COVID, right before we went home and everything closed down, I got Chloe. That is this blonde poodle. So she is 4. And
My hair.
she is a chunky little thing. And yes, I do. They have, these are not really dresses, they are harnesses. So I hook their leashes onto the harness. I had a poodle named Cash, and he got cataracts, and I had eye surgery to have his cataracts removed. And, in case you're wondering, there are canine ophthalmologists who, will remove your dog's cataracts.
Well, I had no, that's something.
Crazy expensive, let me tell you. But I love my dogs, we love our pets. And so I got Chloe, and she and Cash were friends. And Kinsey, she actually kind of, after the cataracts, he did well for several years, and then he had macular degeneration, and he lived to be 18. So he and Coco both lived a nice long life. And Kinsey was actually sort of like his seeing eye dog. She would go out in the yard with him when he had to go do his business, and he would follow her. So he could follow her, and she was a really good kind of seeing eye dog for her older brother. And Chloe she was a little more, what's the right word, playful. She was just a little puppy when I got her and when Cash was alive. And Cash put up with a lot from Chloe. She would chew on his ears, and she would be hanging off of his ears, and he would just kind of put up with it. And until she tried to steal his treats. I think she thought, well, he can't see that good, and I'm just going to steal this treat. And then I would hear her scream, and he would grab her by the ear, and he would just sort of hold her down until I could get her ear out of his mouth. And then I'm like, leave his treats alone. And that would work for maybe a day. And then the next day she'd try and steal his treat again, and it would be the same thing.
For the research for the Baker Street mysteries, you didn't decide to do deep research and bring a dog like
like baby. No, I actually had 2 coworkers who had English Mastiffs. So I talked to them, and both of their dogs had both passed, and they really loved those dogs so much. And I wanted to honor those dogs. And writing about dogs that I don't own is a way for me to live vicariously through my characters. So I get to know what it's like to have a English Mastiff without having an English Mastiff, a 250-pound dog that drools a lot.
Would not be sitting on your lap. Well,
right.
But certainly the New York Times loves the dogs too, and loves the food in the Baker Street series. You are an award-winning author, And let's talk a little bit about that.
It's just amazing, mind-boggling, actually. And to find that a book or a short story, in this case, that I wrote actually resonated with the judges enough that they felt it was worthy of an honor was just the I was humbled by that. So I never thought that I would have a book or a short story that would get a Edgar nomination. The Agatha is more for cozy, they tend to be more traditional or cozy books. My first book, The Plot is Murder, was nominated for an Agatha Award for Best Debut. And then the Anthony and the Edgar were both for my short story that I wrote and had published. The Edgars are in New York City. They're sponsored by Mystery Writers of America. And my nephew, Christopher, lives with his wife and family in New York. And so he accompanied me to the award ceremony, and it was just a wonderful time. I don't think I'll ever forget that experience that we had. And I will say that Christopher he works as a consultant in New York, and he also he and his wife both work in the fashion industry. So if you read the Baker Street Mystery, and you'll see that Maddie Montgomery is this fashionista who's all into haute couture, and I get my research. He and his wife are my researchers. So I will text them or call them, and I'm like, hey, what kind of shoes would she wear? And or what kind of tennis shoes? And my nephew's like, she wouldn't. I'm like, well, okay, she works in a bakery, so she can't have these 4-inch heels and these fancy clothes. I'm gonna need something. What kind of blue jeans? And he'll ask me like 20 questions, like how old is she, and all these questions, and then he'll send me a list of designers. So they have been invaluable in helping me with Maddie's wardrobe
Well, I
and
was
all the
wondering
fashion
about that. It's funny. I was wondering. Well, my sister Natalie is brilliant with fabrics. She loves fabrics. She can draw her own patterns for dresses. I mean, it's amazing. She particularly loves the part about about what Maddie's wearing, because we love to imagine. Oh, poor
Yeah,
Maddie in those stilettos.
I had no idea about all of the ins and outs of the fashion industry, and I'm actually working on the fourth book in the series right now. And I called and I asked them questions, and they're like, and my nephew's like, nobody wears that anymore. I'm like, okay, well, what would she wear? And I think he sent something that he said that was the Sex in the City generation would wear that, but no one young would wear that. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, thanks.
well, that is great. Well, bravo, Christopher and Christopher's wife, because they are giving you good advice. Natalie loves the fashion part of that, as of course we love. We're going to talk now about, well, let's talk about our favorite mystery bookshop series. It is just so fantastic. Again, Michigander, Samantha Washington. And we love Samantha Washington, but of course we love we love somebody
Santa
else in
Joe.
that series.
Yes. So this was the first series that I had published. My
What year
mystery
did that come
bookshop.
out? What was it?
The first book came out in 2017. November of 2017, and the first book was The Plot is Murder. So that's the book that got nominated for the Agatha Award for Best Debut. It features Samantha Washington, who was a high school English teacher who dreamed of one day quitting her day job and following her dream, which was to open a mystery bookshop and to write British historic cozy mysteries. So every book in this series features two mysteries. You have the mystery that Samantha and her grandmother, Nana Joe, and their friends are solving. And you also get the mystery that she is writing about, which is a British historic mystery set in a small village in England around 1938-39, right before World War II. That series is my longest series that I have. The ninth book in the series is Murder on Tour. And I turned in the 10th book in the series, which is going to be the next deadly chapter. So my editor at Kensington has approved it. I hope the title remains, but as of right now, the title is the next deadly chapter.
Explain the dual plot line that you run in these books and how that came about.
Well, when I first got the idea for writing this series, I thought, well, I don't want to have too many murders in another small town similar to Abbott Cove, Maine, where, you kill more people than live in the town. So I thought, what if I wrote the only murders took place in the book? So that's kind of where the title, The Plot is Murder, came from. I intended that Samantha would just live her life and run her bookstore, and the books that she was writing would contain the murder. But then, as a mystery lover myself, I thought, well, that's not going to appeal to people who want to solve a mystery. That they would want it to be closer to the main character. And I got the idea, well, what if there were two mysteries in every book? And my brain as a mystery reader took over, and I was like, oh, I would want to read a book like that. And I didn't think about it from the writing standpoint that it would be challenging, that now I've got to solve two mysteries in every book. But I started writing it and I was like, what was I thinking? So as the story that she's writing has a certain amount similarities to what she is dealing with in real life. So it's a way for her to escape what's going on and to allow her subconscious to kind of take over. That is kind of a break for her and then a break for the reader. And I think that as she's writing, her subconscious takes over and she's able to sort through what's happening to help her solve the mystery that she's facing in her real world. And real, even though she's not real. But
well, don't say that. She's real to us. We believe in Samantha, and we believe in, now you gave Samantha some really wonderful people around her. All the supporting act, who sometimes, I must say, one of them particularly seems to take over.
Yeah, Samantha has a great supporting cast of characters helping her solve mysteries. And I got the idea for Nana Jo, Samantha's grandmother, because my very first job when I graduated from college was working for an area agency on aging in Southwest Michigan, in the town that the stories are set. I changed the names, but it's basically that area. And I met some amazing people. And working for an area agency, my secretary was like 85, and I had a data clerk who was 65. And one of my jobs was to go around to senior centers and to make sure they were in compliance with federal and state and any local regulations. I would sit and have lunch with the seniors, and I learned so much from talking to people. I met vibrant senior citizens who were funny, and the women that I met at the area agency taught me how to play the numbers on, as buying lottery tickets and going to the casino. And there was a liquor store behind the area agency, and we would go there and we would buy lottery tickets and play the numbers. So I learned a lot from them, and I really wanted to show that in the books, to show seniors who were vibrant and who knew a lot about life. And they had a great network because, they have lived and they have children and grandchildren and sometimes great grandchildren that they could tap into for information. And I don't know if you've ever met anyone who, you know, everyone just talks to. Like, you can go and they sit down and strangers just come up and start talking to them. And so I met people like that, and I wanted to honor that. I wanted to include them. And Nana Joe is just fun. She's fun to write because she has lived and she doesn't care what people think about her. She is independent
She has
and oh,
opinions. She has
she has
opinions to
opinions.
share. Oh boy.
And she's a tough cookie. And she also is a martial arts expert. It's something that she's learned. So she is able to protect herself and Samantha when they get into trouble. And she's also a crackpot with a gun. She's won awards for that.
That's why it's so much fun. There's so much joy in writing when you can, well, as I said, when you bring characters to life and the readers after a while start thinking of them as real. So you accomplish that, and there's so much joy, one in the writing, that but also the research is so much fun. And I know that you took a trip or two to England. Let me see if I have that right here
Yep.
first.
Yes, I have always loved reading British mysteries and wanted to visit England. I've gone a couple of times. The picture with me and my friend Mary with the Beefeater at the Tower of London, that was the first time that I went to England, and it was amazing. I love the history. I love the fact that the country has such a long history, and you can go and see buildings, the Tower of London, and castles that have been around for centuries. I think visiting the Tower of London was one of my favorite spots because, getting to see the crown jewels and meeting and talking to the Beefeaters and hearing their stories of everything that's happened over the years. It was just remarkable to me. And so that was one of the first trips that I took. And then I made a second trip with my sister, and we went back to England. And that was an experience because we're very different. And we were, I'm more of a planner when it comes to travel. And my sister is more of Miss Spontaneity. And I'm like, look, I can plan in some spontaneity from 2 to 4 on Thursday, but we've got to plan where you're going and when you're going to get there. We had a great time, though. So I loved visiting England. And I think that's why I wanted to have the British historic part of the Mystery Bookshop series take place in England, because I've had so much respect for when you think back on the time period that the world was still recovering from World War I. It was just so many countries were devastated by that they were not wanting to start another war. And there was this huge movement towards appeasement. So as Hitler grew in power and violated all of the terms of the first peace treaty and started rebuilding military, and the world pretty much did nothing. And even when he invaded countries, they did nothing because they were still so devastated from World War I. But there were so many people who were able to see the truth and were willing to stand and do what was right. And so I've always admired Winston Churchill and the British people because they were involved in the war before the United States joined the war, and they fought alone. The British and the French fought the evil that was the Nazis alone. And I just had so much respect for them. That's why I wanted to set my story that Samantha's writing during that time period.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. And I think your passion also for history is one of the reasons why your books come alive. And for you, it must be so much fun. I know you have a lot of great friends and, of course, your dogs. They must be so proud of you.
Yes. Before I was ever published, before even I went back to school to get my MFA to help learn how to be a better writer, I had a great support system. So the two women that are with me in the picture, Sophia and Shalitha, those are two of my close friends who supported me. They encouraged me through all of my rejections and disappointments. They were there saying, don't give up, you can do this. I remember Sophia, she lived in the South with me, and she had to endure many, many lunches and dinners where I'm complaining about how frustrated I am about not being able to get published and how much I wanted to write, and this was my dream. And she is a great encourager, and she would always encourage me to keep going and, not to give up. And my friend Shalitha lives in Michigan, actually, and she was the person who I decided I wanted to go back to school and get my MFA because I had an opportunity to study with some great fiction writers. One of my favorite authors, Victoria Thompson, was an adjunct professor at Seton Hill University in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and it was a low residency program. And I thought, oh, I want to learn from her. And I applied and I got accepted. It's a sad story. The day that I found out I was accepted, I had also learned that my mom, her kidneys were failing. And I was like, well, obviously I can't go. I can't go to this, program. And my friend Shalitha she said, you need to do this. You need to go. This has been your dream for years. So it's thanks to these two women who have been, like sisters to me. And they're not just the friends that will give you the pep talk. They're the ones who will give you the kick in the butt when you need it to get you to do what you should do. I also have my dogs, so Kinsey and Cash. If you look at the dogs on the cover of my mystery bookshop series, that is Coco and Cash. So Coco is the one doing agility in the upper corner. Cash is wearing the blue harness. When I started writing the series, my editor said, hey, would you be okay if we use your dogs on the cover? And I thought, well, heck yeah, I'll be okay with that. I love my dogs. And they were the inspiration for the two dogs that Samantha Washington has. In the story, it's Snickers and Oreo, but in real life, it's Coco and Cash. So they were the inspiration, and they are the cover models on the book. I've been so blessed to have a fabulous illustrator who did all the covers for that series. And it's amazing. Whenever I look at a cover, I can tell which dog is which, because she really does a great job of capturing their personalities.
Well, of course, Kensington is famous for their covers. They have the best illustrators in the business. They capture the author. They really do.
They have done a great job, and I've been so very thankful for all of the support. And each time I see one of the mystery bookshop books, I think, oh, this is my favorite. And then the next one comes and I'm like, no, this is my favorite. And so I've been so pleased with those. And Marianne Lasher, I believe, is the name of the illustrator, and she sent me the artwork, and she actually like hand paints these, and she sent me the actual artwork, and I had them framed and put on the wall in my office.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, you have done such a wonderful job with both of these series. I didn't want to add, you've got another series, but we can't do everything in one show. So we'll talk about other works, and I want to have you back where you actually talk about the writing process and what you've learned, and giving new authors some ideas. So we'll have another program about that.
Absolutely. I love talking to you, PatZi.
Okay, well, I want to hear, here's your family, and I thought
Yeah.
you'd like to say something about them because I know they must be so, so very proud of you.
Well, I certainly hope so. There's a picture of my mom. Was She was a interesting woman, and she used to always love to travel. So whenever I went anywhere, my mom would always want to come along, and so she was very supportive in that. The gentleman in the red, that's my dad. Sadly, both of my parents have passed. So my mom died in 2013. My dad died last year in 2023. They were both very supportive of me. And then the picture in the middle, my dad is in the middle, and my sister and my nephew and his wife, she's holding one of their children, the oldest. And then my sister, Jackie, is holding their baby, Cameron, so Crosby and Cameron. And then my niece is next to my sister and her husband and their daughter, Marcella. Every Thanksgiving, my sister would have a photographer and take a family photo. This is the picture from a couple of years ago. This is before my niece and her husband had their second child. Maybe we'll baby William in this coming Thanksgiving photo.
Well, it's a beautiful photo, a wonderful family. I know that they're very proud of you. And one thing for sure, all of Valerie Burns books, or VM Burns, whichever series you get, and you should get both of them, are highly recommended by the connoisseur of cozy mysteries, my sister Natalie, because she loves him.
Well, thank you, Natalie. I appreciate the support.
Well, the whole thing about joy on paper, why I named this program Joy on Paper, it's the joy of writing, because it is such a joy to see your words on paper. You wanted to become a writer, and you didn't give up. You didn't
No.
give up. And some people do. Over the 9 years, I've had people who actually gave up at one point in their life, and then they didn't write until 30 years later. During the pandemic, they decided, oh, well, maybe I made the wrong decision, because they were rejected. One author told me, well, I got 4 rejections. That was the day when the publishers would actually send you rejection letters, and 4 rejections, and that was it. She didn't write again for 30 years.
It's amazing because I probably have enough rejections to wallpaper my office. It's perseverance, I think, not giving up and continuing to put yourself out there, to put your work out there, and to find the right editor, the right agent, the right person at the right time.
Did you keep those rejection letters, the ones that
I
came in the mail?
I did. I actually have mostly emails, but yes, I kept every email rejection I ever received. I use it as motivation, right? To try and prove them wrong. I want to prove them wrong. I thought if I, as a mystery lover, wanted to read this book, surely there's at least one or two other people out there who would enjoy it.
Well, did you know rejection letters are becoming collectibles? The real rejection letters, the ones from publishers, famous publishers. So if you have any that are written on paper, because in the old days they used, the publishers used good paper, nice bond
Mhm.
paper, and sometimes embossed. And if you have the letter and the envelope, it's actually valuable. So they are becoming collector's items, because there aren't so many people got the rejection letters, and they either rip them up, or as you see sometimes in the movies, where they'll crumple it up and throw it in a waste paper basket. Well, now I'm telling you, any author out there who has a real written one, because you don't get them anymore, they just send you these emails, which I think is very cold. I really think it's cold. Uh, Save your rejection letters, and who knows? If you become famous, then you can sell it for a lot of money. There are some authors out there who have, again, because you get mad when you've been rejected, you just throw it away. And
Yes.
J.K. Rowling, she should have 17 rejection letters. I wonder if she kept them.
I wonder if she did. I mean, there's so many famous authors who were rejected that really motivated me to keep going. I'm thinking people rejected Hemingway, people rejected J.K. Rowling after, I'm sure they're probably kicking themselves for it, but
Oh my gosh.
can you imagine being that editor who rejected her? But it shows that it doesn't necessarily mean that your work isn't good, that your work can't be successful. It just needs to find the right person at the right time.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I'm so glad that you're persistent. I'm so glad that you've got new books coming out all the time. So we're going to be talking to you again in July, okay? Because
Okay.
we have to have you back because we need to again, we're going to talk about a cup of flour and a pinch of death because the New York Times says you're so great. And we're going to make sure that we promote that book. But it is available for pre order, and you can do that right now. You can go online and pre order it for July 23rd. 2024. My goodness, because Valerie turns these books out so nicely on a regular basis. And again, thank you so much for joining me today, Valerie. It's a joy to talk to you and to see your dogs. And you're just so delightful. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy that you keep Michigan in mind all the time for readers because those of us from Michigan, well, we appreciate it. We really do.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I always enjoyed chatting with you, and thank you, and thanks to your sister for being a
Okay.
supporter.
Okay. Bye bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was so much fun. Oh, I've got the wrong glasses on. I switched. I should switch. Well, I had some fun here today because we started off and then I had to start and stop. We had bad weather, and what I discovered is this I interviewed, we taped this interview with Valerie a few days ago, and I couldn't run it then because I was running out of space on my computer. My goodness, I did not realize when I started this YouTube channel how much memory you need. And so I had a lot of changes to do. That's why I didn't have a program. Usually I do it on Wednesday night, but I did it today on Thursday because I wanted everybody to see this wonderful interview with Valerie. Because one of the things that I really hope that you will do is check out her books. They are so much fun. And A Cup of Flour and A Pinch of Death is available for pre-order. And her latest bookstore mystery is The Murder on Tour. And The Murder on Tour is wonderful because, as again, she has these parallel stories, and they are so much fun. And you get to solve two murders, and also with all of her wonderful characters. And that's really what is distinctive about her books. Her characters are so memorable that I know, my viewers on the radio now and my listeners on the radio program will send me these notes and say, "Well, is Nana Joe real? I think maybe it's her mother or grandmother, and she seems so real." I said, "That's very nice," and Valerie will appreciate that comment because Valerie's been one of the favorite authors to be on Joy on Paper. And as you know, I celebrated the 9th anniversary on St. Patrick's Day and started this YouTube channel on St. Patrick's Day. And so we're just starting. I'm not getting everything right. It's a big learning process. You have to admire everybody who does so well on YouTube. But it's fun, and I hope that you will enjoy these interviews that I'm doing because authors need to get out there. They spend a lot of time at their desks, but they need to get out there and talk about themselves, about their books, and about their dogs. And of course, with Valerie, we can always talk about dogs because she's got another series, and we're going to talk about that one because that's all about dogs. But she will be back here in July to promote the new book some more, and then we will talk more about her joy of writing. And as she said, she understands rejection, but she certainly faced it and kept going. And now she's really, really popular, and you will love her book. So check them out. And I hope that you enjoy these interviews. Again, as I said to everyone, if you have an author that you want me to invite here to Joy on Paper Live, all you have to do is put a comment in the comment box. And if we select your author, and if we get that author on and you're the first one to recommend the author, we'll invite you to join us here on Joy on Paper Live. And meanwhile, if you could subscribe, comment, share, like, you know all the process, what people need here on YouTube. You know it better than I do, and it would really help, and we would really appreciate it. I also have a little message here from Barbara Hinsky, who was on my program. And if you haven't seen her wonderful Hallmark movie, Guiding Emily, you must go and watch it. And her books are out. She has 5 books in her Guiding Emily series. And the latest book is From the Heart, and it's also a wonderful book. So thank you for joining me today on Joy on Paper Live. I've got a bunch of authors coming up, really exciting lineup, and I hope that you'll join me again. I'm going to do another program soon. And anyway, thank you very much.